Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Gustav, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about the kind of like current landscape of DeFi for institutions, as well as the work that we're have been doing at Oneinch. So first off, like my background is I spent 3.5 years at MakerDAO, especially like the last year. I was working a lot on the institutional onboarding. So some of like the big projects we had coming out, for example, the project with Societe Generale, who applied to be a collateral and maker, was one of the things that I was working on. And then in December, I moved over and joined as a contributor to Oneinch to help them with their new product, which is called Oneinch Pro on the institutional onboarding for DeFi. And basically, like the mantra is that we have a lot of institutions who's kind of like wants to use the technology and the promise of the permissionless protocols, the efficiency gains we have using permissionless DeFi, but they want to do it in an environment where they can participate. So yeah, like today I'll be going over, of course, like where we currently stand at Oneinch, some of the problems we have for institutional players, the current landscape for institutional DeFi, what this whole movement means and like can mean for the space, and then also where are we going from here on out. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Oneinch, it's really, especially in terms of like user numbers, grown into probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, DeFi protocol. We have like an insane amount of users. It's live right now on 7 different networks. We have a lot of different products. The Oneinch product suite kind of like started out with the aggregator. But today it also counts over things. It's like the liquidity protocol. It has its DAO out. We have our own wallet as well. We have a limit order protocol, which is also super cool. We have a lot of really exciting things in the pipeline. And I think, in general, like what Oneinch is really like all about is trying to build products that makes it very easy for, like the average user to access the best possible scenarios in DeFi, right? And that of course started with like the aggregator. And then the product that I'm working a lot on, actually it's my only focus with them, which is the Pro product. So how do we use the technology that we have created now to basically access the liquidity that the institutional players are sitting with, kind of like sitting and waiting on the sideline? So for like a lot of the institutional players, right, they kind of like are in a situation where they have some regulatory or compliance requirements that makes it very difficult for them to interact with DeFi in a permissionless way. For example, for like a lot of them, they would have to basically, if they were participating in a general AMM pool, they would have to scan every single participant in the pool, and if it's just one, red or yellow flag pops up, they're not able to trade in that pool. And for other players, they really need to know everyone who is participating in the pool, not just from an AML perspective, but from a KYC perspective. So basically, if we are not, building the tech for them to interact with these types of technologies, they basically would never really be able to come in, right? And I spent a long time at Maker, and I'm of course like a super big believer in DeFi. But at the same time, we also just have to recognize the opportunity that is kind of like in front of us, from us to basically target like very big portions and amounts of liquidity that would just further be able to enhance our like market position, especially from like the viewpoint of the public, right? The more big players we get coming in would also be able to unlock more retail accessibility for us, right? It kind of like helps increase our stance from like the general public. So yeah, like right now, DeFi is just filled with unknown participants, in almost every major DeFi protocol. And this was like one of the things that were like quite easy for us at Maker, because we don't take user deposits. But today, like the vast majority of projects, they take user deposits. So if you have like DeFi pools that is filled with, unknown participants, this just creates like a barrier that is like quite difficult for them to overcome, if even possible, right? So like a lot of the feedback we also got from the market is based, like if you can create this product where we wouldn't have to, scan the pools or, even try to avoid the pools at all, then, they would, happily participate alongside us. And I know there's also, like a little bit of, like the philosophical standpoint, that, DeFi is supposed to be for everybody and like the access is supposed to be permissionless. And like, I totally agree. But at the same time, we also just have to like recognize that, both of these products can kind of like coexist alongside each other. And just because we create, an access point for institutional players to come in, doesn't mean that this is something that would need to be applied on the permissionless side of things. So there'll basically just be like two options available. I think like another really good example of like a protocol that has been taking like the probably like first really big active steps is the Aave Arc deployment under Fireblocks, where anyone can participate in the permissionless Aave products, but they just have this deployment which is sitting under like a setup that allows the customers of Fireblock to participate in it. Right now, it's still quite small in terms of like monetary value, but we truly believe that this is like something that we can scale up a lot, right? I think all of us have experienced, like the benefits of using financial protocols built with smart contracts, and we believe that this like the next step is then to target this segment with it. Another kind of like pretty big benefit of doing this is that like right now is I'm sure that you guys have felt this as well, especially people who have been through several cycles of the market, is that like right now like the only way for us to really grow the space is by getting more retail coming in. But to get more retail coming in, that would typically mean that we would need the prices to increase. And being dependent on like the market conditions for like your product to be striving is never really a situation you want to put yourself in from like a business standpoint, right? You want to make sure that you have like other alternatives to attract capital from, rather than just be dependent on like the market fluctuations. Whether we have a couple of months where the prices go up and all of a sudden we onboard 1 million new users, or like the market stagnates and like some might be leaving of the ones who came in. We really want to make sure that we have like the best terms for like succeeding just from like a general standpoint in the entire space. So like right now, we basically have this like really big portion of capital which is already allocated in digital assets, or who's waiting to potentially be allocated in digital assets if we give them products that they could use, who's kind of like just sitting and waiting on the sideline for us to basically open the floodgates and create products that is able that enables them to participate in a compliant way with us. So basically from like the Oneinch side, where we're really looking to go from here, is that we have like three main things that or like two main products that we want to push out to basically facilitate the institutional onboarding. We have a white label product where we are basically helping like certain companies, institutions, trading desks, exchanges to deploy a white labeled AMM product, the like the liquidity product from Oneinch, under like their own setups. For example, that could be like under their own chain, it could be under their own custody solution, but basically like creating a pool where they're able to completely control the participation in this pool. So there's like the first, which is like the white label product. This is something that we know that there's several of like the DeFi protocols working on these types of solutions. So like going forward, I believe that we will see a lot of similar type deployments to Aave Arc, where different types of entities will deploy their own kind of like their own product DeFi protocol, where they can kind of like control what is happening with it. The next one is our Oneinch Pro general suite. And this will then be, the aggregator that is able to check, for example, KYC directly in the aggregator and only route you into pools where you would be able to trade. And in this aggregator product, we are currently experimenting with creating, zero knowledge proof KYC checks. So, you can basically have like nodes that submit to like the network, whether you are compliant under like a certain level of KYC. That can, for example, be as like a certain jurisdiction, because of course like KYC is still quite regional. But basically, that would allow you to come in as like a player and basically still get like the best price execution that Oneinch is known and appreciated for, but under like regulated pools, under like compliant pools. And this is something that because we also have this of course like pretty strong idea, and also something we saw with Aave Arc now is that, of course, like at least in the beginning, when you limit the participants in the pools, you would also inherently not have like the same level of liquidity in there. So until the institutional onboarding is really a bit more advanced, we would also expect that there would be quite a big like opportunity for like having arbitrage or like different types of aggregation methods on basically still allowing people to get like the best price, because of course like the less liquidity you have in a pool, the worse the trade potentially would be if you have like bigger trades. So that is of course like one of the things that Oneinch does quite well, that you could basically have like 5 different pools and execute a trade going through all of them to end up with like the best price execution. And in regards to like this like institutional onboarding that we envision and that we want to have going forward, we also closed a pretty big Series B round. I don't know if any of you guys saw that, but we basically had more than 50 investors, a lot of also very big traditional investors such as Jane Street. It was led by Amber. And this is, again, from like this standpoint that, we really want to be working with these types of institutions. So since we closed that round a couple of months back, we have been, sparring a lot with these different types of players, and has been getting like a lot of feedback on the product. And like right now, we're basically in like the situation where we have the first couple of pilots lined up. So we already have the first players we will be pushing this out with, and are also increasing in talk with a pretty large portion. And it's really a very differentiated like interest we have in the product. It's really a lot of different types of companies, which also kind of like further like verified our commitment to building this out, is that there's a lot of the market demand from a lot of different types of players in it. So yeah, like right now we are of course like still like very interested in talking with more teams and more players. So if anyone is interested in learning more about this, then of course feel free to reach out to us. And yeah, that was basically it for me today. Thank you everyone for coming out, and hope you will continue to enjoy Denver.